How are yous? My name's Traven, and as the title suggests, I want to talk about my top things of summer 2019. Rules are etc and etc, remember, etc, so let's not waste any time and get right into... It's more of what made the first season great, poking fun at and highlighting the horror of adulting in the modern world. From overbearing mothers and marriage to complicated co-workers and... late-stage capitalism?
Late-stage capitalism is such a pain. That's why it's gotta go.
It introduces some fun new characters and also takes the time to delve further into the existential dread these issues bring with them, exploring all new sides of its characters in a way that makes it all click together that little bit more. I talked about this in a bit more detail in the previous video, hashtag shameless plug, but to put it simply, I think it represents both the best and the worst of the MCU, using its world building and long-term storytelling for some spectacular payoffs that wrap up the arcs of its biggest characters, some better than others, but its sense of finality is stifled by the many setups slipped into its runtime that you just know are going to be milked for everything they're worth. Its plot and characters, on the human side at least, are lackluster at best and obnoxious at worst. But its titular monsters make it more than worth it. They're all surprisingly expressive and have a grandiose sense of scale that makes each battle and its resulting destruction, as over the top as they are, feel apocalyptic in all the right ways. It's a dumb movie, but it recognizes that sometimes people just want to see a good old monster fight, and in that regard, I think it delivers. For as much as I enjoyed this final season and everything it brought with it, from the new characters to the morally murky storylines, to the bittersweet way it finishes things off, it's also one that I can't help but feel lukewarm about, as it's riddled with tropes and cliches I've seen done far better in other shows, alongside just a few too many moments the show seems to think are way cooler than they actually are. Parkour! While it certainly has some standout moments, both narratively and visually, including, of all things, some of the best integration of CG into a 2D anime I've ever seen, with Garo's oddly compelling character probably being my favourite part of the whole season, it simply fails to reach the same heights that even Season 1's more mediocre moments did, and whose lacking art direction actively works against the experience for me. Now, to move on to... Sarazanmai is an original anime series co-produced by MAPPA and Lappentrax and directed by Kunihiko Ikuhara, about Kazuki, Toei, and Enta, a group of middle schoolers who get transformed into kappas to save the world by, It's hard to properly describe this show, not only because I think it's best watched blind, but also because I'm not even sure where to begin. The symbolism, the dance numbers, the butt stuff, probably the butt stuff. What I can say though is that for as confusing as the first few episodes are, it does slowly unravel into something concrete, as it reveals more about its characters, their respective backstories, and the way they intertwine into this over-the-top drama about, as the title of each episode suggests, the hardship they all face in trying to connect with the people and world around them in a day and age where it should be easier than ever to do so. It's a compelling story whose twists and turns often completely upend one's understanding of its narrative with every episode. And as I watched, I couldn't help but notice the strong focus on LGBT+ centric themes, which I guess shouldn't be all that surprising given its director is known for helming shows with those ideas at the forefront. I mean, I wouldn't blame you for missing it, it is kinda... subtle? Not that I'm complaining, of course. Many aspects of the show seem to explore issues and worries faced by the LGBT+ community, and more specifically how they affect its younger members. And it's interesting to watch this through line develop over the course of the series. The only real problem I have with it is how repetitive it can get, especially early on. But I recognize that it's making sure its episodic formula is solidly established so that it's more impactful when it does break away from it in later episodes. And honestly, with how good these animations look, like this fantastic dance sequence KANA-BOON by Shingo Fuji, I can't blame them for wanting to reuse it a bit. Sarazanmai is a weird show that's a lot more simple than its initial presentation would lead you to believe, and is one I couldn't help but connect with. Rilakkuma and Kaoru is a stop-motion animated series produced by Dwarf Studio and directed by Masahito Kobayashi, following the day-to-day misadventures of Kaoru, an office worker struggling with adult life, and her animal friends Rilakkuma the Bear, Rilakkuma the other bear, and Hitori the chicken. I simply adore this show. The models and sets are so textured and detailed, the animation has so much life and character that it loves to play around with in simple and creative ways. Of course it does tend to dip into the uncanny every now and then, but it's usually not a big deal, and depending on the episode, actually kind of works in its favor. Usually. Its characters are all relatable and lovable in their own way, whether it be Kaoru dealing with the dread of feeling like she's falling behind in life, or Hitori obsessively trying and failing to keep things neat and tidy. And it's all wrapped up in this light-hearted and weirdly cozy atmosphere that makes it the perfect series to just chill with. It's a wholesome show that I can't help but appreciate. Hitori Bochy no Marumaru Saikatsu, or Hitori Bochy's Blank Life, is a slice-of-life comedy produced by C2C, directed by Takabumi Anzai, and based on the manga of the same name by Katsuo, about Bochy, a middle schooler with severe social anxiety who's tasked by her former best friend to make friends with everyone in her new class before they can hang out again. Wait, dude, what the fuck? And as someone who suffers with social anxiety, of course I was going to give this a shot. Watching Bochy struggle through what, in retrospect, are basic interactions is instantly relatable. Sometimes to such an extent that I couldn't help but get second-hand embarrassment, or even first-hand embarrassment from remembering myself being caught in similar circumstances. But beyond simply being relatable, TM, the show's biggest appeal for me lies in the relationships between its characters. As the show goes on, Bochy does slowly manage to put herself out there and make friends, which not only slowly but surely helps her to come out of her own shell, but also ends up bringing people together through Bochy, and whose resulting chemistry always makes for some good gags. But even more impactful is the way this bond develops, as they go from awkward acquaintances to a strong group of friends who are there to support one another. The relationship between its main characters and the way they help each other grow feels genuine, and is what makes it all the more fun to watch them hang out and mess around. Hitori Bochy is an uplifting series that never fails to put a smile on my face. Speaking of anxiety, Kami-san wa Komusho Desu, or Kami-san is bad at communicating, by Tomohito Oda, is a comedy series about Komi, who is declared to be the most beautiful girl in school, but whose stoic attitude is actually just a result of the difficulty she has, you guessed it, communicating. But with the help of Tadano, the most average guy you could imagine, she tries to achieve her dream of making 100 friends. Again, go figure I'd like this. But what makes Komi-san interesting to me is how the focus is less on Komi-san herself, and more so on everyone around her. Most of the jokes in the series revolve around the misunderstandings and reactions of her classmates to her situation, and the ridiculous extremes they often reach, which is only emphasized by the exaggerated and eccentric personalities of said characters. And just as compelling are the smaller moments that bring it all back down to earth, and the personal breakthroughs that come with them. It's a series that's full of humor and heart in equal measure. Developed by Doingsoft and published by Devolver Digital, Roboto is an exploration-based platformer where you play as a cat in a mech suit on an alien planet after she and her owner crash land whilst responding to a distress call. That's right, it's a Meowtroidvania. Sorry, I don't think you heard me. I said it's a meow. Right off the bat, the game's artwork stands out. Despite the limited color palette, every enemy, item, and object is easily readable, and each environment has its own distinct aesthetic. Whether it be the slick steel surfaces of the pipes in the flooded areas making everything look cold and slippery, or the intense heat waves engulfing the furnace rooms, turning the place into an inferno. There's a surprising amount of visual clarity and variety for a game with just 2 colors, which, funnily enough, can even be customized with unlockable color schemes you can collect throughout the game, though personally I prefer to stick with the original. But the main draw of this game for me is its world. That feels like I can just pick a direction and wander for ages, discovering all its secrets as I maneuver its many traps and platforms, both in and out of the mech, before running into a dead end. It makes learning the ins and outs of navigating its dense little map, either to find new rooms or to loop back to safety, all the more engaging, which only gets better as more options become available. And some of the most fun parts of the game come from simply stumbling into NPCs and bosses, not only because of the way their dialogue and designs add nicely to the game's tongue-in-cheek nature, but also because those sudden moments of discovery make it feel like a true, living, breathing world. Though I'd have to admit, with the bosses, it did get annoying as a lack of warning often left me completely unprepared for battle, which I guess wouldn't be an issue if I was actually good at the game, but, you know. Roboto is a creative game that, like any good Metroidvania, is fun to get lost in. Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled is a remake of the original Crash Team Racing, developed by Beanox and published by Activision, with maps, characters and mechanics from the other Crash Racing games thrown into the mix. I'm sure part of my enjoyment here comes from my nostalgia for the Crash Team Racing series, which were some of the first games I ever remember being able to play competently. But I've just been having an absolute blast with Nitro-Fueled. The revamped graphics are gorgeous, adding so much to the character's environment while maintaining the charm of the original's cartoonish goofiness. The racing is incredibly well polished, mixing together mechanics from all of the games in such a way that's familiar but which adds so much extra depth to it all. It certainly takes a while to get used to, but it's weighty, responsive, and so goddamn fast. I just get giddy playing it, even when I'm getting completely fucked over. And the amount of customization options it offers and what it will soon be adding is just ridiculous. I'm still kinda disappointed they didn't adapt Nitro Kart's Adventure Mode, which was my favourite of the series, but with how well the game came out, I can't really complain. It's a solid remake I feel like I may be having too much fun playing through. Okay, I know I usually go through these one by one, but I ended up with so much here that, for the sake of time and convenience, I had to group them up a bit. Though, considering how quickly I tend to blow through this part, it might actually be for the better. So, Aurora is a fantasy webcomic written and illustrated by Red from Overly Sarcastic Productions that follows a blonde-haired warrior and a cursed healer on an arduous quest riddled with monsters and mystery to take back the soul of a god and save the world. The artwork is full of color and dynamic imagery. The designs manage to be both epic and cute in their own way, including the horrifying monsters. The characters are fun and bounce off each other quite well. The world is fascinating to learn about, and I'd love to go into more detail, but I can't really since it's still in the beginning chapters. Like, the main duo have only just, literally and figuratively, wandered out of the proverbial Act 1 cave. Sure, it makes it easy to catch up on, it only took me about 20 minutes to get through it, but it also makes me wary to recommend because I just don't know how things are gonna play out. But I really like what has been done so far, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So if you're looking for a new series to keep up with, I'd say give this one a shot. UALA is a short, sweet, and to-the-point action scene inspired by My Hero Academia that does some really cool stuff in its short runtime, with clever choreography built around a clever concept and some stellar cinematography and effects work that not only adds to every impact, but which also perfectly captures the epic feel of an anime fight in live action. Brett Sword's videos have a distinctly nostalgic and almost dreamlike vibe I just can't get enough of, and whose writing flows so naturally I barely even realize the video's over until the outro rolls up. And I think this latter aspect is best seen in the actual recommendation of this section, his video on Tokyo Godfathers, the newest installment of his All You Need Is Love series, a collection of deep dives into the thematic through lines of Satoshi Kon's filmography. He manages to discuss religion and Christianity, homelessness, the treatment of the LGBT+ and more specifically trans community, and the way these issues and even more weave themselves into the film's narrative, without any of it feeling out of place. It's one of the best video essays I've seen in quite a while, and that I think deserves a lot more love. Flying Lotus is More, featuring Pac Anderson and directed by Shinichiro Watanabe, a director well known for his work with such classics as Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo, and Space Dandy, is a trip to say the least. It makes great use of its mixed media approach and dreamy music for a surreal experience that takes a sharp turn for the grotesque about halfway through, with some disgustingly fluid and almost bubbly animation, as its blue-clad protagonist blossoms into something from a Junji Ito manga, but further down the rabbit hole as well as Someday, which honestly should come with a warning for motion sickness and potentially epilepsy, so if you're affected by either of those, I'd recommend clicking to a different tab while I talk, or just skipping over this. Timestamps in the description and pinned comment. Anyway, it features a constant string of match cuts centered on various pieces of architecture that click together so quickly YouTube's compression can't keep up, even on higher resolutions. While I'm sure there's some commentary to be found in it about how much our modern landscape has blurred together, the sheer technical spectacle alone makes it worthwhile. It's almost hypnotic watching these static structures of concrete and glass suddenly shuddering to life. I can only imagine how much time and effort went into syncing it all together. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Twerp's Starlight Brigade featuring Dan Avidan lands with a bang. From the vibrant colors to the expressive animation to the retro aesthetics and references to its epic story of a shy shy boy from a ruined world taking his first steps into the cosmos. There's just so much to love about this. It's a masterclass in visual storytelling that I'd honestly pay to see expanded into a full-blown movie or something. And I amn't the only one who's head over heels for it, as Twitter was flooded with Starlight Brigade fan art following its release, including a Starlight Sona trend, where people tried their hand at designing their own spacefaring renegades. Myself included, though I only managed to get one good drawing done and I didn't even post it, so, you know, don't look at me like that, it's a fun excuse to doodle! Speaking of space, this year's AniTuber anthology, the fifth of its kind, takes the series into the final frontier. This collaborative project put together by Mr. Nice Guy and Under the Scope features a whole host of anime YouTubers from all across the content creation sphere, discussing those anime that go where no man has gone before. From thematic analyses and nostalgic ramblings to scientific breakdowns and some proper banter about space waifus, and more, there's plenty of fun to be found in its hour-and-a-half long runtime for every kind of anime fan. But it isn't just the anime community that got together for something big, as one marvelous scene took over the film/superhero side of the internet recently. In preparation for the release of Avengers Endgame, fans and critics alike looked back at the smaller moments of the MCU and what makes them so great. Though originally started by the likes of Nando v Movies, High Top Films, lessons from the screenplay and more, voices both big and small filled the internet with breakdowns, analyses and think pieces of their favorite scenes of the franchise from perspectives both technical and literary, myself included. The official playlist for it has over 150 videos, and there are even more that haven't been properly accounted for in its hashtag, and I can't help but be astounded by the sheer scale it managed to reach. To say the anime industry is a difficult place to work in is, to put it lightly. Low pay, tight schedules, and unreasonably long hours have become commonplace due to a variety of structural factors, and which Yonko Productions does a great job of breaking down in anime, suffering from success. This video goes into detail about the anime production cycle, the pros and cons of its committee system, and how the industry's recent boom and the resulting increase in demand for it has put a tremendous strain on those working within this industry. Similarly, Super Bunny Hop's unionization, steady careers, and generations of games culture charts the history of working conditions within the gaming industry, the way it's declined toward conditions on par with anime production, with crunch time bad enough to hospitalize people becoming uncomfortably common to hear about, and the efforts of various groups within the industry to improve things, which was followed up by how the video game industry treats its testers, to which the answer is not well. Both Yonko and Bunny Hop's videos are a bleak look behind the scenes of these beloved mediums that can often be taken for granted, and that I think for anyone with an interest in them is important to be aware of. Mouthguard is a comic series by David Peterson about a world devoid of humans where mice have developed their own medieval civilization that was going to be developed into a feature film under 21st Century Fox, but which shortly after Fox's merger with Disney was shut down, just 2 weeks before production was meant to start. The team was allowed to take the project elsewhere, but it was eventually announced that the project was completely cancelled. However, with that announcement came some insight into what the project was shaping up to be, as not only was a video posted on Twitter showing off all the concept art, sculptures, and early 3D models that had been designed, but a demo of the movie developed in the Unreal Engine also found its way online. While it is crude in a lot of ways, there's still so much that seemed promising. Despite being so small, its world has an awe-inspiring sense of scale from its shift in perspective, where now turtles are massive beasts of burden, small boulders become mountains, ponds become lakes, and every possible predator you could imagine a mouse fighting turns into monsters of epic proportions. The lighting looks great, the fighting is kinetic, and I'd imagine that with some more polished models and textures it could look even more stunning, heightening the wonder this project promised. Of course, it could easily have turned into a mediocre flop, which, given how massive its projected budget was, would have understandably made Disney nervous. But watching this demo, I think it's clear that the potential was there. And I would link directly to the video, but unfortunately it was taken down, though it is easy enough to find re-uploads. It's a bittersweet look at what could have been, and who knows, maybe the demo will generate enough interest for the project to be rebuilt, or at the very least, may bring some new eyes to the comics. And yeah, those are my thoughts. I know, it's been a while. I made a community post about it, but basically I was working on a video for June about One Punch Man's second season, but the more I worked on it, the more redundant it felt, the less motivated I was to finish it, and I decided to eventually just leave it. I don't want to have to force myself to make videos I don't think are worth making, but I shall be back on the monthly schedule soon, so look forward to that, I guess. Anyway, let me know what you think, if you agree, disagree, why your top things of summer 2019 were, what you're excited about for the next few months, and thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this and want to see more, check out my last video, where I discussed the conversation between Zemo and T'Challa, and what I think makes it so marvelous. Or check out my hour-long video essay on the way the MCU's developed over the years, and the influence it's had on our modern media landscape. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe to come fly at me. Hit the bell to stay notified, follow me on Twitter for more updates, thoughts, and poor attempts at humor, and hopefully, I'll see you later.